easy to book in-network appointments. They've got over 150,000 providers all across the 50 states, and thousands of verified patient reviews to give you. Let's get back. Maybe I parked a little further down the road and I'm just confused. I thought we just went to the wrong. Now, let's get back to the video. My car isn't there. At first, I thought we just went to the wrong spot. Like maybe I parked a little further down the road and I'm just confused. So we walk up and down the road looking for it, but it's not there. It's just gone, vanished. And I'm just thinking, man, you can't have anything in LA. But like, this was a nice neighborhood. Why are they stealing my Honda Civic? That's like robbing a bank and taking the free lollipops instead of the money. Like there's Lamborghinis, Mercedes, BMWs in this neighborhood. Why would you take a Honda Civic? But then Jake points to a sign that we completely missed when we first got there. A sign that's posted right where we parked. A sign that says in big bold letters, parking for residents only, unauthorized vehicles will be towed. So what am I saying? My car got towed. I'm standing there, staring at the sign going, no, this can't be happening right now. This cannot be happening. Because remember, I had to get back to school. I could not miss that test. And now that the fire was getting close and we didn't have any car, we were getting nervous. This was pretty messed up though. Like there's a literal forest fire happening 2 miles away. The sky is orange, ash is falling from the sky like it's the apocalypse, and the tow truck company still had time to come out here and take my car? They had nothing better to do during a natural disaster than enforce parking regulations? Like, I'm just imagining the people that live in this neighborhood sitting in their house, looking out their window to see their neighbors' houses all burning down, and they're just thinking, you know what could fix this? Tow that car that's not supposed to be there. The fire was now getting so close that the people in this neighborhood were evacuating. So traffic was starting to build up while we're just standing there stranded. My car was gone, we're miles away from school, we're miles away from home, and the fire is still getting closer. We're totally cooked. Possibly literally. We're panicking, trying to figure out what to do, and that's when we realize what time it is. It's already noon. We've been out here for way longer than we thought, and we only have an hour and a half to get back to school for the math test. And remember, this isn't some regular math test. We cannot miss this. So my friends are freaking out. They're pacing back and forth, running their hands through their hair, looking stressed. Dude, we need to get back right now. If we miss this test, we fail the class. We can't risk it. We have to leave right now. And I'm like, yeah, but we can't also just leave my car at the impound lot. I need to get it back. Because if my parents found out I did that, there would be a funeral in about a week that you'd have to attend. And just so you know, if you come to my funeral, I'm not going to yours. We start arguing about what to do. They want to Uber back to school immediately and deal with the car situation later. I want to Uber to the impound lot first to get my car and then drive back to school. But there's not time to do both. We have to choose. Finally, after going back and forth for a few minutes, they're like, look, we can't wait, Tyler. We're Ubering back to school. You do what you need to do, but we can't miss this test. I'm sorry, man. So they pull out their phones and order an Uber. And like 5 minutes later, it shows up. They get in the car and leave. I respect Uber drivers. They'll show up in an apocalypse to pick you up just for that $5 tip. So now I'm standing on the side of the road, alone, with a wildfire in the distance, no car, and a math test in an hour and a half that I absolutely cannot miss. And them leaving me put me in a really bad situation because with how far away we were from school, an Uber back was not cheap. With all three of us combined paying for it, I could afford it. But just trying to pay for an Uber myself, that was playing a risky game. I pull out my phone and search for the nearest impound lot. There's one about 15 minutes away, so I call them to see if they have my car, and they do. I order an Uber there, and I wait. The whole time I'm waiting, I'm watching the smoke get thicker in the sky, and I'm trying to figure out if I should be more scared about the fire getting closer or not getting back to school in time. The Uber finally shows up. It takes like 10 minutes. Now that I think about it, I wonder if all the Uber drivers in that area just huddled around that neighborhood because they knew people would need Ubers out of here. Like maybe people's cars burned down and they needed a ride. At this point, I'm pretty sure you could be on the mood ordering an Uber and these drivers would still find a way to come pick you up. So I get in the car, the driver looks at me in the rearview mirror and goes, "You okay? It smells like smoke outside." And I'm like, "Yeah, long story. Can you just get me to the impound lot as fast as possible?" And he's thinking, why is this kid who's barely been through puberty asking me for a ride to the impound lot? But he did it anyway. After that, we drove without talking, mostly because I couldn't understand anything he was saying. Like he was on a phone call with someone the whole time, and I couldn't tell if he was talking to me or them, because sometimes they wouldn't respond. But I'm going off track. Anyways, I'm checking the time on my phone every 30 seconds, watching the minutes tick by, doing mental math to figure out if I can still make it back to school in time. It's looking like it's gonna be super close. If I can hurry at the impound lot, I should be able to get back in time. We get there around 12:15. I say thank you, bus driver, get out, and I walk up to the front desk. There's a guy behind the counter who looks like he hates his job and hates his life and hates me, and he goes, "Can I help you?" I tell him my car got towed from the wildfire area and I need to get it back as soon as possible. He types something into his computer with 2 fingers like he's never used a keyboard before in his life, and then he goes, "Yep, we've got it." I exhale and go, "Awesome. Can I get it back?" But then he goes, "Yeah, towing fee is $300. I think I need to get my hearing checked because you didn't just say $300, right? Dog, I am broke. I cannot afford this. I checked my bank account on my phone to see if I had enough, even though I already knew what it was gonna say, and I only had $47. Was there actually $47 in my bank account? I don't remember because this happened a long time ago, but I figured it would be better to say a specific amount. Point is, I definitely did not have close to $300. I also didn't have a credit card yet or anything, so I could not pay this fee. The guy behind the counter is just staring at me, waiting. He doesn't care about my problems. He just wants the $300. I'm trying to think of how to get this $300 within the next 5 minutes. Like, do I just say, "Look, a pig flying"? Hope he turns around for a second to look, and then I take the keys from behind him? No, I don't think that would work. So now, I have no choice. I have to do the one thing I was hoping to avoid. I have to call my mom. I step outside the impound lot, take a deep breath, and I call her. I'm sweating, shaking. Same thing I do whenever I take a dump. The phone rings once, twice, 3 times, and then she picks up. "Hello?" I can tell she's wondering why I'm calling her at this time of day when I should be in school. And before she can even say anything else, I go, "Mom, I need you to send me $300 right now." There's a pause, a long pause, and then she goes, "What? Why? Where are you? Are you okay?" "Okay, so here's the thing. I skipped school to see a wildfire with my friends, and my car got towed. I need $300 to get it out of the impound lot, and I need it right now because I have a big, important test in about an hour that I cannot miss." Silence. Complete silence. I can hear her breathing on the other end of the phone. And I know she's trying to decide if she should ground me until GTA 6 comes out or just disown me altogether. And then she starts yelling. "You did what? You skipped school to see a fire? Are you insane? What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Mom, I know you're mad. I know this was stupid. You can yell at me all you want later. You can ground me. You can take my phone away. Well, actually, I would prefer if you didn't do that. But anyways, I need the money right now, Mom. So please, just send it and we can talk about this later." She's furious. "You're grounded for the rest of your life." She hangs up the phone, and about 30 seconds later, I get a notification saying that I just got $300. I go back inside the impound lot, pay the fee with the money my mom sent, and they tell me they'll bring my car around. I'm standing there waiting, checking the time on my phone, and it's 12:35 p.m. now. I have less than an hour to get back to school. They finally bring me my car. I get in, start the engine, and I peel out of that impound lot like I'm in a Fast and Furious movie. I'm checking the time every few seconds to see if I'll make it. 12:50 p.m., 1 p.m., 1:10 p.m. Time is moving way too fast. And if you know anything about LA traffic, it's awful. So I kept getting in traffic jams thinking I was never gonna make it. But somehow, I finally pull into the school parking lot at 1:28 p.m. Once again, was it actually 1:28 p.m.? I don't know, but it was close to when my class started. I literally sprint from my car to the classroom. I'm running through the hallways like my life depends on it. I'm out of breath, sweating, and I definitely smell like a campfire. I burst through the classroom door right as the bell rings. Everyone in class turns and looks at me. I'm standing there in the doorway, panting, smelling like smoke, covered in ash, looking like a Fallout character. The teacher looks at me and goes, "Tyler, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. I just had a rough morning." She looks at me like she doesn't believe me, but she doesn't say anything. She just goes, "Okay, take your seat." I finally sit down, and I'm relieved. I'm exhausted, I'm stressed, but I made it. And at this point, I thought everything was gonna be okay. But boy, was I wrong. Because the teacher starts handing out the test, but then maybe 2 or 3 minutes into the test, the classroom phone rings. The teacher walks over and picks it up. She listens for a second. She goes, "Okay." And then she hangs it up and looks directly at me. "Tyler, the office needs you right now." My hands go cold. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Everyone in class is looking at me again. I hear someone go, "Ooh, he's in trouble." Whoever said that, I'm gonna find you. I stand up and walk out of the classroom. And the whole time I'm walking to the office, I'm thinking, this is it. I'm done. They know. They figured it out. I'm getting suspended and my life is over. I walk into the office and the vice principal is sitting there behind her desk with her arms crossed. She looks at me and goes, "Tyler, sit down." I sit down, smelling like smoke, which probably didn't help with whatever she was about to say. And she goes, "Can you explain to me why you weren't in your second, third, fourth, or fifth period, but you magically showed up in your sixth period class today?" I'm sitting there, smelling like a campfire, covered in ash, and I know there's no point in lying. She caught me. It's over. So I just tell her the truth. "I skipped school to see a wildfire." She stares at me for a second and then goes, "You skipped school to see a fire?" "Yeah." "A wildfire?" "Yeah." She shakes her head and lets out this long sigh, like the kind of sigh that says, I'm too old for this, and why do teenagers do such stupid things all the time? Then she goes, you do understand that you can't just leave school without an excused absence, right? Yeah, you're getting detention. 3 days, and I'm calling your parents. I nod and say, okay. Like I was already about to be banished to the Badlands from Elden Ring by my parents, so who cared? The only part I was really scared of right now was the fact that I was missing my test. And I could afford to get detention, but missing this test, that was something I couldn't do. At this point, I'm just accepting my fate. I'm not even trying to argue. So I say to her, I'm so sorry about this, and I promise it won't happen again, but I'm taking a really important test in my class right now, and I can't miss it, so can I please go back? And I'm thinking this is a full court shot I'm taking with 0% chance of going in. This is like me asking Margot Robbie out on a date. It ain't happening. I mean, but if you're seeing this, Margot, no? Okay, I'm sorry. But then the vice principal pauses for a second, and she goes, yeah, go. Before I change my mind, go. I didn't need to be told twice. I stand up and walk back to class as fast as I can. I'm basically jumping for joy until I sit down at my desk and realize this test is really hard. So I failed it anyway. I probably would have got a higher score if I just didn't show up. And for what my punishment was when I got home, well, I'm still grounded to this day. So if you've ever wondered why I always film videos just inside my house, it's because I'm still not allowed to leave until GTA 6 comes out. What one thing does my history teacher and Diddy have in common? Neither of them are allowed within 500 feet of a school. Now we all know why Diddy ain't allowed near schools, but why is this the case for my teacher? Well, let me explain. So a couple years ago, I had quite possibly the most unique teacher ever. What do I mean by that? Let's just say, she was not afraid to speak her mind. Whatever she was thinking, she would say it. So if she thought you were dumb for not knowing the answer to a question, she'd let you know. I remember one time she was teaching and the subject she taught was history, by the way. But anyways, during class, a kid raised his hand and asked how Christopher Columbus was able to make it to America if they didn't have planes back then. So she looked him in the eyes and said, Martin, how did you even make it to this grade? So she had no filter. She was always just a little different. On the very first day of school, we did icebreakers to get to know each other. So every student had to say one fact about them to the whole class. But after we finished, she wanted to say one. And this was the moment I knew it was gonna be a long year because she stands up and starts to get emotional. My fun fact is that on April 1st, 1998, I'll never forget the date because at first I thought she was saying an April Fool's joke, but she went, on April 1st, 1998, my husband of 13 years passed away. Well, that was kind of a buzzkill, but she literally just stopped there without saying anything else. So one kid decided to say what the whole class was thinking and goes, if you don't mind me asking, how did he pass away? And you could tell she was hoping someone was gonna ask that. So she says, well, my husband was quite the daredevil. And one day he decided to go skydiving, which he had done plenty of times before. But this day was different because when he tried pulling his parachute, it wouldn't open. Then, with tears literally falling down her face, she goes, and sadly, he fell all the way to the ground and passed away. Looks like I'm taking that off my bucket list. But obviously, this is super tragic, right? Not funny at all. But when she said this, me and a friend that was in this same class happened to make direct eye contact with each other. So I couldn't help but let out a little laugh. It wasn't because I thought her husband passing away was funny. Of course not. But when you and your homie make eye contact during an awkward situation in class, you have no other option. You're gonna laugh. So after I did, the teacher looks at me thinking I was laughing at her story and she goes, Taylor, don't ever disrespect me like that again. Well, first of all, my name is Tyler, but that's not important right now. So after this interaction, she did not like me the whole school year. Any chance she had to get me in trouble, she took it. So it was no surprise that I ultimately was the one who got her fired. But how did this happen, you ask? Just kidding, I know no one was actually asking that. But I'm in my parents' closet and no one's gonna actually ask me the question, so I have to ask them to myself, okay? I wonder what my parents are thinking when they hear me in the closet just screaming to no one. I just know they're out there shaking their head right now thinking, our son's never gonna get a girlfriend. Okay, back to the story though. So how did I get my teacher fired? Well, when the school year first started, she told the whole class this was gonna be her final year of teaching. And after it ended, she was gonna celebrate by going on a month-long cruise in the Caribbean. She also said she was gonna retire the year before, but her students were so bad that she couldn't go out after such a negative year. She was basically trying to have her Kobe tribute season and then sail off into the sunset. Literally. But in reality, it was more like sailing into a volcano the way she went out. Because one day during class, we got on her final nerve. Now, students would always misbehave in her class because she was barely 5 feet tall and not intimidating at all. And because she would always say exactly how she felt, students would troll her all the time because they were just hoping to get a reaction out of her. I can't believe we were rage baiting the teacher. Now that I'm older, I'm embarrassed of how rude we were, but that was just the reality at the time. One time she even told us that her dog passed away, and a student literally responded by saying, "Ruh-roh, don't bring the dog into this, man." By the way, rest in peace, Roxy. Fly high, my girl. So I'm telling you, we were an evil class. I don't even blame her for doing what she did to get fired. But on this particular day, it was even worse because this was the day after the Super Bowl. And she was a huge Bengals fan, but they happened to be one of the teams playing in the game. Now, unfortunately, they lost. So she was more angry than I've ever seen her this day. And I don't want to speculate anything, but by the way she was acting, I'm pretty sure she was hungover. So you could tell that if someone even sneezed the wrong way that day, she was gonna crash out. But because of this, the students were even more motivated to rage bait her now. So the bell rings, class starts, and she tells us to get our notebooks out because we're gonna be taking notes. Now, the first thing we did during class this day to make her mad was playing a game called Stick It. Let me explain it to you. So I had a friend in this class who was going through cancer treatments at the time. He's healthy and well now, praise God. But at the time, due to the treatments he was getting, he was bald. It looked pretty dope, I can't even lie. But he hated how people would always show him so much pity for having to go through this and for being bald. So to lighten the mood, he would bring these mini suction cups to school. And he would pass them out to people during class, and basically, the objective of the game was to try throwing these suction cups and landing them on his head. Listen, I know that may sound like an insanely out-of-pocket thing to do to someone who has cancer, and trust me, that's what I thought too. None of us wanted to play at first because we felt so guilty, but he insisted on it. So during class this day, whenever the teacher would turn around towards the board to read the notes, one of us would try throwing the suction cups and landing it on his head. But unfortunately, one person threw the suction cup at just the wrong time because right as he did it, the teacher turned around and caught us. She got super frustrated that we were playing this game rather than paying attention to the notes. So she yelled at the class. She said that if none of us wanted to pay attention to the notes during class, we could all stay after school and do it in detention. It was kind of funny though, because as she was saying this, she would look back and forth between the kid who had cancer and the kid who threw the suction cup. And the kid with cancer would just be sitting there staring at her with a straight face while he had suction cups on his head. It looked like one of those aliens from Toy Story. So she finished her little rant and we promised to stop, so then she continued teaching. But it was the final nail that broke the camel's back. Wait, I don't think that's how the phrase goes actually. It was the final nail in the camel. No, that's not it either. I broke a camel's back. No, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Hey Siri, what's the phrase that goes blah, 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 camel's back?
That's a great question. The phrase you're referring to goes like this.
Okay, well, point is, the teacher was fed up with us. As you can see, I'm not lying about the fact that I was not paying much attention in this class. It's probably why I have friends that are currently going to Ivy League schools. Meanwhile, I'm talking to a camera in my parents' closet making Diddy jokes. I just know my parents wish they got a daughter instead. But after my teacher got done beefing with a cancer patient, she went back to presenting the notes. Class was normal for a couple minutes while she was doing this, until I got a text from my friend that said, "You won't throw me piece of gum right now," when she turned around. Now, although that sentence might sound like Patrick Starr wrote it, the reason he was saying it like that is because all my friends have a rule. No matter what the circumstances are, if one of us are dared to do something and we don't want to do it, you have to do it if the other person says you won't. I don't remember how it started, but it's just our rule. So he clearly said this because he knew how flustered the teacher was and he wanted to see if I would do it. And listen, I was still a young kid at the time. My frontal lobe hasn't fully developed yet. It still hasn't. It probably never will. So my brain is fried. But because of this, I was up for the challenge. Although we didn't sit close to each other at all in this class. He was literally on the other side of the room. So I knew I was gonna have to throw an absolute dime to make it to him accurately. I'm talking like a LeBron James level pass. I love you, LeBron. But I had no other choice. I had to do it because he said you won't. So we make eye contact and I show him that I'm pulling out the gum and we both kind of nod to each other like it's go time. So I give the gum wrapper a kiss, hoping that it's gonna go exactly where I want it to. And just like that scene in Talladega Nights where they're running to the finish line in slow motion, with all the power I have, I launched the piece of gum. It felt like I was looking at that thing in the air for 5 hours. But unfortunately, the millisecond that gum left my hand, I knew it wasn't going where I wanted it to. Matter of fact, it wasn't even close. So what? The gum didn't make it. It will just land on the floor and the teacher won't notice, right? Well, that would have been the case if it didn't hit her in the head. Bruh. And I don't know what in The Exorcist happened after that, but she was somehow able to turn her head what felt like 270 degrees. And she did it super quickly right after it happened. This is how she looked. Who threw that? Obviously, all the students snitch on me right away because they saw that look in her eyes and they knew that I was probably about to be put on the back of a milk carton. So they didn't want any part of that. And I don't blame them. But after she realized I was the one who did it, I blinked and all of a sudden she was right at my desk. She then puts her hand down right in front of me and you could tell she just wanted to grab my head and start bouncing it like a basketball. She was clenching her fists to the point where they were shaking. She was putting all her anger into it. But then, in a moment of clarity, after a few seconds, She stops. She was able to calm herself down, and instead of pulling a Will Smith at the Oscars on me, she walks back over to her desk without saying anything. Knowing I just narrowly escaped my demise, I exhale thinking I'm safe. I thought she'd calm down and realize that she shouldn't do anything crazy because it's not worth it. But as she's about to go back to teaching, she turns toward the whole class and decides that she does want the smoke today. She wasn't gonna take any more disrespect.